That is a C major octave, one of the most fundamental structures of Western music. It's an octave because it is a series of 8 notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The first note is do or C, and the 8th note is C, the last note of one octave and the beginning of yet another octave, and that which is in turn the beginning of yet another octave, and so forth. That's how you have a keyboard. It's a series of octaves. In religion, octaves are a series of 8 days rather than a series of 8 notes, but the notion is the same. The week starts with Sunday. It goes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's day 7. And day 8 is a Sunday again. So an interval of 8 days goes from Sunday to Sunday, or from Monday to Monday, or from Tuesday to Tuesday, and so forth. The way the octaves in music go from C to C, from D to D, from E to E, and so forth. There is one very important octave in the calendar of Jewish feasts provided in Leviticus. The Feast of Booths or Tabernacles, which occurs in the fall, shall have 7 days of offering oblation to Adonai. But on day 8 shall be declared a holy day for yourselves. On the one hand, the feast is described as lasting 7 days, but the 8th day is just as holy as the first. And Leviticus goes on to say that on day 1, it is a Sabbath feast, and on day 8, it is a Sabbath feast. So the feast is framed, enveloped by Sabbath-level feasts on the 1st and the 8th day. It is a true octave. John the Evangelist characterizes the last day, the 8th day of booths, as being the culmination of the festival. In chapter 7, verse 37, the evangelist says, "But on the last day, the greatest of the festival, Jesus stood and cried out, saying, 'Let anyone who thirsts come to me and drink.'" He said this on the octave day of the festival of Sukkot, which means booths or tabernacles. In Christianity, the greatest octave is the Easter octave. John the evangelist tells us that Jesus appeared to the disciples in the upper room the first time on Easter Sunday, and the second time a week later. Thomas was absent the first time, but 8 days later, Thomas was there. This is the basis for the 8-day Easter octave, which follows right upon the sacred Triduum. There is another 8-day interval provided in the book of Leviticus, not a communal festival, but a personal ritual for the circumcision of the male child on the 8th day after his birth. There are various reasons speculated for this. Leviticus provides no reason for why it should be on day 8. Some rabbis say it is so that the child may celebrate one Sabbath at the beginning of his life before he enters into the covenant of Abraham, because the Sabbath belonged to Adam, and Adam was not circumcised when he celebrated his first Sabbath or any of his other, and therefore there should be the privilege of one Sabbath day for each male child to celebrate it according to the covenant of Adam before entering into the covenant of circumcision, the covenant of Abraham. The infant John the Baptist celebrated one Sabbath uncircumcised. Before it happened that on day 8 they came to circumcise the boy and called him by the name of his father Zechariah, who was then mute, but his mother Elizabeth said, "No, his name shall be John." We see that the day of circumcision is also the day of naming. And once again, there is a reason to be found in Genesis, because Adam was unnamed on his first Sabbath, but on a day 8, he was given the name Adam by God. So day 8 becomes both the circumcision of the Jewish boy, but also his naming day. The church celebrates the birthday of John the Baptist on June 24th each year with great solemnity. However, there would be space in the calendar for an 8th-day celebration of the circumcision of John the Baptist on the 1st of July, but apparently the church has never followed through on this. Something for another pope to do later on, maybe Pope Leo the 34th or something. So the infant Jesus also celebrated one Sabbath uncircumcised, and when the 8 days were done for the circumcising of him, his name was called Jesus. The name was given by the Father. It was a way of claiming the child as his son. So Joseph stood for Jesus and said, "He shall be called Son of Joseph." And from that time, Joseph was called the father of Jesus. The father named his firstborn son after himself, but he took the name of his own son in return. It was a reciprocal relationship between the generations. The second great octave in Christianity is the octave of Christmas, which begins on December 25th and ends on January 1st, December 25th being the day of Jesus' birth, and January 1st being the day of his circumcision. The infant Saul of Tarsus celebrated one Sabbath uncircumcised before he was circumcised on day 8, as he proudly professes in his letter to the Philippians. Now, he also proudly says that he was born of Benjaminite parents, members of the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest of the tribes, an expression of his humility, but that tiny tribe was proud of having produced the first king of Israel, King Saul, and that was the name that the child was given as his covenant name. Later, he adopted the work name of Paul, the mission name of Paul, because in Greek, Saul means limp or limping, walking with a limp, and Greek people would laugh at that name. So Saul became Paul, a Roman name, in order to blend into Greco-Roman society more smoothly. But the name of the covenant given to him on his 8th day was and would always be Saul. There is an additional minor octave in the church calendar from the Solemnity of the Assumption on August 15th to the feast of the coronation of the Blessed Virgin Mary on August 22nd. Not much is made about the fact that it is an octave, but it is an octave whether we make something of it or not. Unfortunately, one major octave disappeared recently, the octave of the Holy Spirit, which started on Pentecost Sunday and went to the following Sunday, Trinity Sunday. This was such an important octave that Pentecost Monday and Pentecost Tuesdays were holy days of obligation for many centuries. And unfortunately, it disappeared. It was swept away during the reforms of 1969. Pope Paul VI was reportedly very sad when he signed the order canceling the octave of the Holy Spirit. He was very devoted to the Holy Spirit himself. But what one pope takes away, another pope can bring back. So maybe Pope Leo the 134th will bring back this octave of Pentecost again. In the meantime, may the Holy Spirit have mercy on us all.